The Rubik's Cube, arguably the most iconic puzzle in human history. Now this is a marvel of human engineering. Just think of it, a large cube filled with tiny other cubes which move around in absolute synchrony. This is probably one of the most popular puzzles out there. But how did it come into existence? Well, let's find out. The Rubik's Cube was created by Erno Rubik, a Hungarian architecture professor who was met with a challenge. His challenge was to create a cube in which smaller cubes could move around without breaking. Now, this is an extremely ambitious proposal, but Erno Rubik took it up, even though it hadn't been done before. And he managed, after lots of hard work and toil, to make it work. Now, this still wasn't the Rubik's Cube we know today. It was a piece of wood with different pieces in it, and didn't have any colors at all. But after a few more iterations, we got to what we have today, only that it didn't have colors. But one day, Erno Rubik added colored stickers onto each side, and then he started scrambling it. But to his great surprise, he simply couldn't put it back together. And that day he decided that he was going to solve this. So for the next 1 month, he sat in his bedroom, and he decided to start solving the Rubik's Cube. He had to solve the cube without any guidance, and he did. After 1 month, he came up from his bedroom in triumph. He had finally solved the Rubik's Cube. He immediately recognized the cube's potential, and in doing so, he went and he patented the product, and he went to Ideal Toy Company to bring it to the masses. After marketing en masse, we now have this product in our hands today. But even though the cube got so popular, and even though it's in so many homes today, it's still a cube which is very hard to solve, and many people haven't solved it yet. But why is this so? And really, how hard is it to solve? Well, let's find out. The Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion possible permutations. Crazy, right? It's almost hard to imagine or even believe. Let's just think about it, right? We have a cube right here, and any twist to any side, this is a different permutation. This is another permutation. This is also another permutation. So there's so many different possible permutations in this cube. So many that we can't even comprehend that number. And if all of humanity got together, spending their entire lifetimes solving the Rubik's Cube, imagining that they all have their entire lives ahead of them, starting at 0 all the way to 100, we would only reach 20 quintillion permutations. Imagining that we won't come across the same permutation more than once, which would drastically decrease the amount of permutations we would have known. That is how big the number is. But what if I told you that we can solve each of these possible permutations, all 43 quintillion of them, in just 20 moves? Now, let me introduce you to God's number. Now, God's number is what cubers call the minimum amount of moves required to solve any permutation in all of the Rubik's Cube. In other words, every single permutation in the Rubik's Cube can be solved with just 20 moves at maximum. Now, this is what we call God's number. And this is basically a mathematical problem representing what could be the minimum amount of moves required to solve every single permutation in the cube. Now, this is a puzzling issue which many mathematicians have been thinking about for almost 3 decades. Teaming up with 30 years of research and supercomputers at Google, we finally know the answer. Every single permutation in the Rubik's Cube can be solved with just 20 moves. Now, actually, for the average solver, it's going to be much, much less, because only 490 million of these permutations need all 20 of those moves. Most of them can be solved in much less than that. So that's what God's number is. Now, what about the exact opposite? This is what we call the devil's algorithm. This is the one algorithm required to solve every single permutation in the cube. You might have noticed, in the Rubik's Cube, if we repeat one set of actions again and again, we will end up with the same result. So for example, if I'm just twisting this face again and again, just 4 times, I come back to the same result. Same thing if I'm doing an algorithm over and over again. Depending on what algorithm it is, it will always return to the same spot at the very beginning if we do it enough times. This is what the concept of the devil's algorithm relies on. The devil's algorithm is a very, very long algorithm, which is all we need to solve the entire Rubik's Cube. The actual devil's algorithm, the lower bound for it is 34 quintillion, which means that it's much, much easier if you're just solving by actually learning it the proper way. So that is the devil's algorithm. I hope that encouraged you to learn the Rubik's Cube using our tutorial. So if you'd like to see our tutorial, please click on our links below in our channel, and we'll teach you how to solve the Rubik's Cube very easily.